Today we're going to continue to look at the film score for the movie Awake, and I thought it would be interesting to see a scene the way I first see it. Of course, there's no music, just a rough mix of dialogue and effects. What it will have is something called locked picture, which means that none of the timings will change. There'll be no edits made to the film at this point. So let's take a look at that with no music, and then see what I did to compose this portion of the film.
You are damaged. Observe.
When did that happen?
237 years ago.
I've been asleep for 237 years? I can't be that old.
Energy from the anomaly has revived you.
What anomaly?
Behold! Above you.
So let's see how I approach this. I started on the cut where his extended arm is sweeping across his body looking for damage. And I decided to start by writing a figure for the harp. And that figure consists of two lines, mostly moving in contrary motion, based on our F augmented scale. You can see that I started the figure with our two augmented stacked chords a fifth away. Here on the bottom we have the F augmented chord with F, A, C sharp, and on top a line outlining a C augmented chord in inversion, E, C, and G sharp. Now again, these three notes could also be seen as outlining an E augmented chord or a G sharp augmented chord. It's all the same grouping of notes, but I'm going to call it a C augmented chord just to be consistent with how we've been thinking about this in the past. You'll notice that there's a D flat here instead of a C sharp, where normally an F augmented chord would be F, A, C sharp. Here it's notated as F, A, and the C sharp is enharmonically spelled as a D flat. Now why is that? On a harp part, it's important to account for the tuning on each string. This diagram shows the harpists how to set their pedals so that each string has the correct tuning. If the mark is above the middle line, then the tuning of the note is flattened. If the mark is on the line, that means that the tuning of the note is natural. And if the mark is below the line, that means that the tuning of the note is sharpened. On the left side of the harp, from the harpist's view, there are three pedals, D, C, and B. And on the right side of the harp, there are four pedals, E, F, G, and A. So this pedal diagram indicates that our pedals are set to work with our F augmented scale. And that's why we've notated this note as a D flat instead of a C sharp, because our D pedal is set to D flat to take care of our C sharp note. Our next pedal, our C, is set to a C natural. Now there's no pedal change when we have to move quickly from a C to a C sharp, because our D flat is covering that. In the fifth bar of our harp part, we begin with these rolled chords. And this symbol right here, this wavy line, indicates a roll from the bottom of the chord to the top. If it were to be the other way around from the top to the bottom, there would be a small arrow at the bottom of this symbol. Let's take a listen to those lines moving in contrary motion starting in bar 32 and then to the rolled chords ending in bar 44. Now that the harp part is completed for this section, I'm going to take the top line of these two contrary motion lines and I'm going to copy it. The way to select that in Dorico is to filter out just the voices that you want. So I'm going to grab all of these top notes and highlight them and copy them. Next, I'm going to take the line that we just copied and I'm going to use a technique called hocketing to distribute it through the other instruments. And what hocketing is taking very small fragments of that entire line and then passing them between different instruments. What happens when you do that is that the color constantly shifts and it gives a lot of interest, especially here where we don't have a lot of harmonic interest because it's just two lines playing against each other. But this will keep the ears fresh as we play it. So let me show you a way that I've developed that's a pretty easy way to do this on these notation programs. First I'm going to take that line and I'll just paste it into two different instruments, the flute 1 and 2 and the oboe 1. Now what I'm going to do is break those lines up into small pieces that interlock with each other. So let's say our flute 1 and 2 are going to play these first 4 notes, and then we're just going to get rid of these 2. Then on our oboe 1, let's get rid of the first 3 notes because those are now covered. We're going to start and go ahead and overlap with this, and then let's just play 3 notes here. Then we'll get rid of the next 3 notes. And we'll let our flute 1 and 2 take those again. Let's again have it play this downbeat here. And we'll get rid of these 2 notes. And then on oboe 1, we'll start with this D flat and go all the way down to this E. And then get rid of, let's say, the next whole beat. I'm going to get clarinet 2 in on this action, and I'm just going to copy this little part here, delete it, and then move it into clarinet 2. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm distributing this line. We have the complete line so far, but now it just happens in these instruments. Let's hear just that together. And I'll continue on doing this until I've distributed the line in an interesting way that I like. And then what I'm going to do is move on to this lower contrary motion line that we have in the hard part, copy it, and use the same technique, hocketing the lower line. Now let's take a look at how I did use hocketing to complete this section. You'll notice that that lower line we were talking about has been used and distributed throughout different instruments. And also you'll notice that some things like this beginning of this lower line, D flat, E, and F, you see it here with the enharmonic C sharp, E, and F, but you'll notice it's an octave higher here than it is here. That's interesting that you can use the hocketing and try these snippets of melody in any octave you like. Let's take a listen now to this section with just the woodwinds and harp and take notice of how this hocketing works. Now let's take a look at the end section where we reveal the anomaly for the first time and focus on the brass here. I think it would be a good idea to see the picture again without music and just see how we might approach this.
Behold, above you.
I love this scene and I love how it was shot. It's just brilliant and it gave me so many ideas on how to write the music. I got to see this film on an Omnimax screen, you know, one of those giant screens with the great sound systems at the Science Museum. And when that shot of the space probe being this small in the frame and then the enormous size of the anomaly, seeing that on an Omnimax screen, it just was, oh, it was amazing. So how do we say that in the music? How do we show this disparity in size between this small and the large? Well, let's look at what I did with the brass here. The first thing you'll notice that in this section, the brass don't come in until after the voice commands the probe to behold. And when they do come in, they come in at very low dynamics. And everyone's playing in a range where they can play those very soft pianissimo dynamics and blend and just kind of sneak in. So at this point, they're still small, just like what came before with the harp and the woodwinds that we just looked at. Everyone's at a small pianissimo dynamic. When the buildup happens, when he starts to look upward, there's a big swell in the strings, and you can see there's also a swell in dynamics in these brass parts. They go from pianissimo to forte. So again, they go from small to large, from quiet to loud. Now I could have marked this double forte. The reason that I didn't mark it fortissimo or double forte is because dynamic markings mean more than just volume. They also mean the way that you play. And as a trumpet player myself, if I were to see this marked fortissimo or double forte, I would probably play it with a little bit more edge, a little bit more brassy. And I don't want this brassy here. I want this to feel grounded and big. You'll also notice range-wise that I've kept the instruments in registers that are easy for them to play. Nothing is too high. This means there's no strain or effort to the sound. Again, I just want something big and full here. Let's take a listen to just the brass and the percussion in this section. Now let's look at the entire scene to picture, all the way back from those hocketed woodwinds and harp part that we looked at to this big giant brass statement at the end, and feel if there's a sense of scale, a sense of size, both small and large. Let's watch this scene from Awake.
You are damaged. Observe.
When did that happen?
237 years ago.
I've been asleep for 237 years? I can't be that old.
Energy from the anomaly has revived you.
What anomaly?
Behold. Above you.
Thank you to everyone who subscribed and is following along, and thank you for all the nice comments you've been leaving. I really do appreciate it. I've left a link to the full film in the description, and I hope you get to see it. It is an absolutely beautiful film. So I hope you'll continue on in this journey, and I'll see you all next time.